Alright, Leroy Diesel. Going to show you a video of how I clean some auto parts. When you get some auto parts that are just filthy, dirty, greasy, oily, all of that, and you're just doing small batches and don't really want to take it to someone that can hot tank them, or you're just doing it yourself. This I have found to be a very effective and very not a lot of labor. So what I'm doing here is I've got a fish fryer or a crawfish boiler, and what I do is I put my parts in there. I'll just run over there and show you. Alright, so here I've got the basket that comes with a lot of the fish fryers, and you can see I've got it loaded up with parts. I actually boiled these last night, so these aren't going to be a good example of what to show you, but for example, like motor mounts, they're just completely, I mean, these aren't actually too bad, but they're just greasy, and who likes to clean motor mounts by hand? So I just take whatever will fit in this basket and I load it up. It'll go in here in just a second. I've got Purple Power. You can get that at AutoZone or auto parts stores. I just mix that in here. So I used a gallon, and a gallon of this stuff is only about $6. I'm going to go fill that tank up with water, about a gallon of water, and then I'll fire up the burner. By the way, I like to add the Purple Power first. I don't know, it's just my preference, but it seems like when you add the water on top of it, it kind of agitates it and mixes it thoroughly, but when I get the thing boiling, it's completely all mixed anyway, so it doesn't make a difference. And all you got to do is get the fire burning. Like that. Put the lid back on. It'll help the temperature come up quicker. You don't have to waste quite so much propane. But I'm just going to let that sit there and cook for about 45 minutes or so, and I'll check the progress in the meantime, coming in and checking it every now and then until I like where it's at. I've done this in the past, and aluminum parts, for example, come out looking basically like brand new. All the bolt heads, they get so nasty and full of grease, and you can't really clean them with a rag. And anyway, you'll see what I'm talking about here on the next video. I'll splice it into this one. Just real quick, I wanted to show you, for an example, this is the bell housing inspection cover plate. Let's see how, anyway, I've already scraped it about as good as I'm going to scrape it, but all down in here, especially on the inside, just all over this whole thing. I literally got a whole big handful, and you can see my glove here. You know, this is just nasty stuff to work with. I hate working with this stuff. And by boiling it in the way that I'm showing you here, I'll show you here in a few minutes the difference. We'll see you then. Okay, so it's been about 30 minutes, and I got it up to a pretty good boil here. I'll show you what I've got going. Right there, you can, trying to get this out of the steam here. You can see that that's up to a pretty good boil there, and that one part has come up out of the solution there, so I'm going to try to knock it back down so it gets clean. But I mean, already you can see this thing. It's like almost like brand new. That side's still got a little more to go. This is the heat shield that goes on underneath the turbo by the glow plugs and the starter cable and all that good stuff. But now I've pulled it out. It didn't want to go down in there just right, so I'll just lay it on there as good as I can. It's going to go on there at all. Well, I'm going to leave it out and do the rest of this stuff, or put it back in there when I do the rest of the stuff. So I'm going to put the lid on there. Oh, let me do this. I don't know how well you can see that, but all these parts are coming out. I mean, they are squeaky clean. That one, this one, they still got a little more to go, but they're about 99% better than they were. Let me stick it all back in there, let it cook. I got to add a little salt. See you in a minute. Okay, so what I've done is I've pulled out the basket, which is right there on the ground. That's full of parts that just came out. I went ahead and swapped out. Without the basket in there, I could fit the bigger parts in the bucket, and that's boiling now. Just so you know too, is I've put rubber parts in here, like let me get that, like on the rubber grommet on the dipstick for the transmission. I boiled that. I boiled lots of plastic parts, wire harnesses. I mean, you name it. I can pretty well clean it up with this method, but I won't guarantee your results, so do it on your own. Do it at your own risk is what I'm getting at. So anyway, I'm going to show you these parts here that came out of the bucket. What I noticed is it actually is cleaning this thing so well, it's actually taking the paint off, which is great, because I would repaint this kind of stuff anyway. See if it, yeah, just by rubbing it, it's taking the paint off now. This is the, yeah, see all that paint's just flaking off. Hopefully you can see that. All the, right there. Just take a high pressure hose or a pressure washer or something, and all this paint you'd just be left with raw, clean metal. The motor mounts I put in there last, so they didn't boil as long. They could still go a little bit longer. Here's the injection pump bracket for the throttle cable. That came out pretty good. I'm going to sandblast that and paint it. The peninsular upper intake manifold that came out, that was on my truck for many years, and so it has that corrosion. I never painted it or anything originally, but I'll probably sandblast this just to prep it real nice and then paint that also. But I mean, these things are oil-free and grease-free right now, so they're very good condition. All the bolts, let me show you some of these. Don't know how well you'll be able to see it, but by this boiling process, sometimes down in the head of this bolt, on a metric bolts, they have that little ridge, and those just get full of grease and oil, and this absolutely just takes it all off. I had silicone on some of these bolts, and it just takes it all off. Here's an oil hose bracket for the oil cooler. It looks like new. Starter bolts that were just nasty oily look like new. Here's the water pump bolts. It's still got a little bit of silicone here, you can see, but see how it just comes right off after you boil it. It just comes off. The threads were all caked with silicone, and they're all pretty clean. These actually went in at the same time as the motor mount, so they didn't boil as long. So that's a pretty good job for as long as they were in there. So yeah, you can kind of see what's going on. I got a whole pile of bolts here. That's all that's left. So I'm gonna let this other boil. I got my injection, my fuel return hoses, the hard lines that go underneath the intake manifold, and one runs across the front of the engine, left to right. The transmission inspection cover, or torque converter cover, I should say, and then the transmission dipstick. That's all that's in there. So if you have any questions, you can let me know. LeroyDiesel.com. Thanks. Okay, one last video of boiling parts in the fish fryer. I got the transmission torque converter inspection cover there sitting on top of the pot. I just pulled it out and was shocked to see that it basically cleaned it down to raw metal. Let's see how, yeah, you can see some of the paint that's still on it. Like right there, you can see something that was inside, but this whole area right in here was just probably a quarter-inch worth of crap. So that's kind of the results that you can achieve. This is just I'm gonna sandblast this, and it'll take me, you know, very small amount of time compared to if I tried to sandblast this whole thing without doing this process. So anyway, good luck. If y'all have any questions, let me know. Bye.